Someone asked me this morning about how do I name my parts? And of course, the minute that I read that, my parts got very disturbed because they thought, we name ourselves. So I wanted to speak on behalf of my parts about the issue of naming parts because it is so important that you let your parts name themselves. And I want to say it again. It is so important that you let your parts name themselves. Nothing could build more trust and more self to part relationship than the self allowing parts to name themselves. Because most likely, if the quote unquote self is naming the parts, it is not the self naming the parts. It's another part naming the self. As an example, if you have a part that in your mind you think that's my lazy part, no, nobody has a lazy part because that is rude. That is a rude name that one part is calling another part, right? So you have a manager who's calling the part that doesn't want to do stuff lazy. It's calling it a name and it's rude. That's not your lazy part. That's the name your manager is calling the part that doesn't do stuff. If you ask the part that doesn't do stuff what it wants to be called, it is definitely not going to call itself the lazy part. I mean, it's highly unlikely. So in general, if you have any kind of a negative name that is arising towards a part, it's highly probable that that negative name calling, lazy, stupid, ridiculous, silly, weird, all those names, they come from a manager who is calling that part a name. That is highly likely. It's like 98% probable that that's what's happening. Now, that said, I will say that I do have a part who is a seahorse. Where are my parts? Are my parts here? Yes, indeed they are. But yes, okay. In my box of exiles, this is my exile box. They like this box. I have managers who think things about this box. We're not going to get into that. But anyway, in this box, I have a seahorse. Where is the seahorse? Hello, seahorse. Oh my God, where are you? Ah, so aggravating when you can't find your parts. Oh, are you kidding me right now? My seahorse is not in here. What's happening? Oh, here it is. Okay, good. All right. This part is a seahorse who carries the feeling that I am a weirdo, right? So this is not the weird part, but it is a part who carries the feeling or a belief that I'm weird or different than others. That is different than calling this the weird part or the weirdo, right? That would be a manager. Let's just get a manager out of the manager box. Oh yes, let's illustrate with finger puppets. Okay, manager box, very nice. Very nice box, as a matter of fact. Good job, managers. Ooh, and look at how well organized they are. Ooh, so typical of managers. Okay, so let's see. Who would we have as a manager who might call someone else a name? My managers are like, well, who would want to volunteer to do that? But this angel has volunteered. Thank you very much for volunteering. Angel says, you're welcome. So this manager, okay, it could be that this manager goes, oh, that one is so weird. And then if we called this one the weirdo or the weird part, it would not be the name of this part. It would actually be the manager calling this one a name, right? So what we want is maybe the manager's like, ugh, that part's so weird. It really freaks me out, right? Okay, I hear that you have trouble with this part. Okay, you have a right to have trouble with this part. You have a right to feel how you feel. You don't have a right to call it names or to give it a name because, hello, this is a sentient individual who has a right to their own name, right? However, I'm okay if you have a process that you need to have with me, put the seahorse down, right? And say, oh, Angel, I really hear that it's really hard as a manager. You want other people to approve of me, and then here's this, part who just doesn't care about what other people think, and it is kind of wacky, and I hear that that's hard for you, right? So that I could have a conversation with this manager about how difficult it is to be in the presence of this part, right? But that's between me and the angel. It's not the angel's business to name or name call this exile, okay? Thank you for volunteering, Angel. She says, peace out. I wouldn't really call this part a name. I wouldn't do that. I was just volunteering. That's right, you wouldn't. Okay. So now back to the seahorse. So in general, a lot of my parts are animals because they're finger puppets. And so they like to call themselves just the name of that puppet or that animal, So the seahorse has decided that it wants to be called seahorse, right? And what seahorse represents is the feeling that I'm a weirdo. Because see, it has like these little weird orange tuft, or like these little purple tufts. It's kind of orange. It's got this green, like it feels like this is a weirdness that like surrounds it all completely with another little weird purple tuft. It's like, I just have weirdness. It's very difficult, all my weirdness. And so that's how it represents its feeling of being weird or different. And so it's representing or symbolizing its belief or feeling that it's weird and different, but that doesn't make it a weirdo, and it certainly wouldn't be called a weird one. I hope that that's clarifying. And that's one example of, this part's just called seahorse. So there you go.